Tonight we're focusing in on Zoom with Galaxy AI on the new Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Ah, a baby tiger. Check out his claws as he prepares to pounce on that frog. Close one, but not as close as this Zoom. We can literally count the whiskers and... Oh look, Mum's here. Good thing I'm nowhere nearby. Go wild with Galaxy AI on the new S24 Ultra and zoom in on the epic day or night.
Get yours now at Samsung.com.
Today on CityCast Boise, I'm with Hey Boise newsletter editor Blake Hunter to break down the stories of the week. We're talking racial harassment in Coeur d'Alene and the Treasure Valley during the women's basketball tournament, the closing of Saltzer clinics and what this means for Boise, and how much you need to make to buy a home in 2024. It's Friday, March 29th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Well, Blake, we made it to Friday again. How are you doing today?
We did it. It's been a great week. I feel like now that we're like towards the tail end of March, I can't believe the next week's going to be April. Everything's warming up. I'm so excited.
I know. It's looking good. Well, the weather is a little spotty. It's a little hit and miss.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
We'll see what this weekend brings. I wanted to start by asking you, there was an incident in Coeur d'Alene that made national news this week for all the worst reasons. Mm-hmm. And it involved the University of Utah women's basketball team who were attending the NCAA tournament in Spokane. Have you heard about this incident?
Yeah. So I followed like NCAA March Madness on the women's side really closely this year. And the University of Utah was just one of my favorite teams in general. So I was always going to be following this. But of course it had Idaho and of course it had racism in it, this story. So this has been kind of all over. I'm sure that a lot of listeners have seen it. But if you haven't, essentially what happened is that, you know, when teams travel, the NCAA and like host school puts teams up in hotels. And they had the University of Utah team staying with another team in Coeur d'Alene. So like a little bit of a drive away from Spokane where they were playing Gonzaga. And while the team and another team was walking to a restaurant, and then also while they were walking back, a truck drove by with a Confederate flag, and either the driver or passenger, someone in the vehicle, shouted the N-word and other racial slurs at these teams. And again, that happened on the way to the restaurant, and then on their way back to the hotel, multiple cars came by, they've said.
Yeah, didn't they say there'd been kind of then a crowd that like gathered?
Yeah, there's like a bit of a rally that happened. So obviously, you know, that was really shaking for the team. You know, could have been like it ended up being their final weekend of the season, final game of the season, and all of that. But like you just never want that to happen in any kind of situation while traveling in general. And as you know, an Idahoan, I'm like, dang, of course it's really disappointing, but of course this happened in Coeur d'Alene again. Of course this happened in Idaho in general. But North Idaho has a long history of these kinds of issues of just really outright, specifically anti-Black racial discrimination. And so, yeah, you know, the NCAA and Gonzaga got the team into a new hotel. I, you know, hope that they were able to adjust and feel safe and whatnot. But, and, you know, the head coach spoke about it at a press conference after one of their games and just kind of named what it was and said what happened and was like, it just sucks. She said it has a black eye. They're kind of the end of their season has a black eye on it now because of this.
Absolutely. I mean, under any circumstance, that would be horrifying. That is horrifying. And to be traveling, you've worked your whole season to be at this tournament, and now you're just trying to have dinner and you're having this racist harassment. Yeah. That really has to be devastating for the team. And then you have to still go perform. You still have to try to play at your best, even though you faced that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now, of course, there's added commentary going on. So the FBI and local law enforcement and state police are looking into this incident. They're trying to figure out, you know, who is behind this, trying to identify suspects. But then, of course, you have some far-right online actors who have come online and to say, ooh, if this did happen, that sucks, but are we sure it happened? And kind of calling into question a lot of what's happened here. And specifically, they had some things to say about the timing. So the day before, Governor Brad Little signed a bill essentially banning like diversity statements that like required diversity statements for hiring or for college admission across the state government. And so these far right like online folks are kind of saying, well, that's pretty convenient, and isn't that like a good optic for kind of a 1-2 punch kind of thing for the left to get riled up about this? And to that, I see like, what did the University of Utah have to gain from this? And I mean, there's so many things to say about that. I'm sure you have some comments on it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, that's quite the conspiracy for people in Idaho who are against the governor signing this banning of diversity statements. They recruited an entire basketball team from Utah to be part of this conspiracy, apparently. Including the head coach who spoke on the record about this in an NCAA setting. Like, that is a hell of a conspiracy. Like, Idaho's, a great place to live. It's not that important, though, that a Utah basketball team would be part of a conspiracy for our governor. Like, this is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, it's funny that you point that out, because also one of the things that I was thinking is that not sure if police and also media would have responded so strongly if this was not an out-of-town school. If this wasn't a team from the University of Utah, because they have like the national attention, that might be off base, but I was just wondering about that.
No, I think that's a fair point, because the press conference about it didn't happen in Coeur d'Alene until after it had become national news.
Right.
And then even with that press conference, far-right provocateur disrupted that and disrupted the entire press conference so that it had to stop. And so I just think it's interesting that the group that is trying to throw doubt on this or say it's a conspiracy has been disrupting it. It is trying to claim all of these different groups are involved in not liking an action by our governor.
Yeah. It doesn't make much sense. Yeah.
No, it absolutely doesn't. I do also, we talk a lot about the racism in North Idaho, and I do think it's important to note that KTVB did have a story this week about a store owner in Meridian facing a racist incident that happened at his shop, where a man came into his toy store and was talking about robbing the place, about stealing his merchandise. And when the store owner was like, yeah, that's not cool. That's not great. Like, could you not come to my business and talk about committing a crime in my business? And the man started yelling racist things at him and threatening him. And he submitted footage to KTVB about what had happened, and they confirmed that it was what he had said. So this isn't just a North Idaho thing.
No, not at all.
This is an Idaho thing. This is something we need to square with. So when people say, this isn't us, this isn't our communities, this is our communities.
Yeah.
This happens, and we need to be aware of that and recognize that and work to change it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's great to say this isn't us. And, well, it's not great to say it, but it's great to have that to shoot for and to, organize for and work towards within our communities, but we're not there yet, so you can't really say that.
Exactly. No, I think that's a fantastic point. I want us to be there. I think a lot of us want us to be there, but we're going to have to do the work to get there. We can't just be there by putting out a statement.
Yeah. Another story we wanted to follow this week that we've been following for a couple months now is that the Saltzer Health Clinic, which is owned, again, by a Salt Lake-based company called Intermountain Health, is closing down the 11 Saltzer Health Clinics in the Treasure Valley. And actually, they're closing today. It was just about financial reasons for Intermountain Health. But essentially, I mean, you're taking away 11 clinics, just kind of out from under the feet of a community that really badly needs a lot of health support. And so, Lindsay, I was wondering if you could speak to this as a former nurse. What do you think the impact of this is going to be actually in Idaho's hospitals?
Oh, I think it is going to have a large impact. Not just losing the 11 facilities, but one of which was the only 24-hour urgent care in the Treasure Valley. So that, as a mom, that's an issue. Things happen at 2 a.m. where you don't necessarily need the emergency department, but you would like your child to be seen, or it feels kind of urgent, why you go to an urgent care.
Yeah.
But they had 450 employees who now don't have a job. That's a large amount of healthcare employees who are now no longer employed. And they saw about 100,000 patients each year. Yeah. And just from working in the hospitals, that is a lot of a patient population to try to absorb.
It's huge. Yeah.
Our hospitals are already really busy and kind of on the brink of what they can handle. And so then having to also absorb 100,000 patients, that doesn't just happen overnight. The hospitals don't suddenly just have the capacity to do that or to treat them in the way that they were seen by their providers at Saltzer or at the urgent care. Like they don't suddenly have that capacity. And so this is going to impact everybody who is receiving care in the Treasure Valley as the hospital systems that are still here try to compensate, as the urgent cares that are still here try to compensate. But it's going to be difficult for those employees because jobs don't just suddenly appear, or specialties that you were in don't just suddenly have a job for you. It doesn't really work that way. And so some of the providers on their profiles on the Saltzer website have indicated that they are going to fight to stay here. They're going to get jobs here. They're going to stay in the Treasure Valley. Other providers have said they're just leaving. It's a bit of a struggle to be a provider here right now. And so they're going other places. So we are permanently losing providers. Some of the other staff who have worked there have said that they are going to leave healthcare altogether or leave healthcare in this area. So we're already struggling to hold on to healthcare providers, nurses, support staff, respiratory therapists, and some of them are now leaving forever because of this. So this will potentially have quite a large impact on this area and healthcare availability and accessibility in this area.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me think too of like, there's been this transfer of a lot of kind of the medical bearing, weight bearing has been put on these like primary health clinics because they're, and like more urgent clinics because they're just lower cost. Like everyone's struggling to budget for just daily life stuff. But then when you have an unexpected medical emergency come up, that throws a wrench in things. And so oftentimes you see people, going to these clinics, whereas historically, maybe they would have gone actually to a direct doctor or the ER even. And so I'm wondering how you think this will affect like places like, I think of like Terry Riley, like that kind of focus on slightly like the lower income, like they put a lot of focus in that community. Like, are we just going to feel the squeeze across the board? Is that what you're kind of thinking?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. Terry Riley does an amazing job serving the population that they serve, but now they aren't going to suddenly have capacity to serve the people who maybe would really struggle or don't have a primary healthcare provider. Terry Riley isn't going to be able to take care of all of those people who were being seen at Saltzer clinics. Yeah. These Saltzer clinics were throughout the valley. So some people aren't going to be able to travel to clinics that are further away. They probably had a clinic in their neighborhood that was their clinic. And so that's that accessibility issue. I think this is going to impact the ER. Urgent cares are an essential part of our healthcare structure because they take some of that pressure off of the ER, where you need to be seen quickly, so you can't get into your primary healthcare provider, but it's not an emergency. Yeah. Like you're not, if you aren't seen today, you aren't going to die. But you do need to be seen quickly. And so I think this is also going to cause a lot of stress on our emergency rooms. Yeah. Because if you don't have access to the urgent cares that you used to have access to, or there's fewer or the wait is longer, more people are going to go to the ER. And so then that just makes it more difficult for everyone who needs emergency care to be seen in a timely manner and to have access to that care. So I think across a lot of different spectrums and ways of looking at this, from income to accessibility to just the already stressed healthcare system we have, this is going to have a major impact. Yeah.
And like you said, while we're already trying to cling on with our fingernails to all the doctors that we already have because they're trying to leave, and understandably so. This is, I mean, I hope that we can kind of keep our finger on the pulse of like what happens with a lot of these doctors and patients. It makes me fearful for, I mean, heaven forbid something like what happened 4 years ago this month with COVID come back up, with already really strapped emergency rooms having to deal with something like that. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would say the one little bit of good news, or just a little glimmer of light, is some of the providers have from Saltzer have come together and are forming their own independent practices.
Yeah,
and so
and
they
that's great.
really are committing to continue to work in the communities and to provide care in these communities. And so we aren't losing all of the healthcare providers, but we are losing some, and we can't afford to lose any.
Yeah.
Okay, Blake, I wanted to try a new segment today. It's a bit of a game, a fun dystopian game called How Much Do You Need to Earn to Buy a Home in 2024?
Oh boy.
I know.
Boy.
No, this is going to be really, really fun. So the Idaho Statesman had an article that published some information that Zillow had produced about how much you need to earn to buy a home, what is the average home price in the United States, in Idaho, and in Boise. And so I wanted to ask you what you think that is. And just to give you a little help in the price ranging, in 2020, a household with an annual income of $59,000 could comfortably afford a mortgage in the average U.S. home in the average U.S. city, spending only 30% of their income. So just kind of a baseline in 2020, that is what you needed. So I wanted to start with the U.S. So Blake, what do you think you need to earn in the U.S. to afford a home comfortably? And how much do you think that average home price is?
Okay. So there's a couple things here. First off, yes, you could pay for a home if you already had it with $59,000, but at least in the Treasure Valley, you could not get into a home with that level of income unless you were sitting on a ton of cash.
Definitely. And that would have been tricky in the Treasure Valley. That was for the US on average.
That was for the US. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So current household price, maybe median across the US, I want to say, I'm pretty confident that it's above $500,000, but not by much. So I'm going to say maybe $550,000.
Okay, for the house price?
Yeah.
Okay, actually go down.
Okay, then I'll say exactly 500.
Oh, go down.
Really?
It's
okay,
less,
this is
for
thrilling.
the US,
I did not
yes.
expect this to be happening. Okay, 475.
Ooh, you're taking little steps. You should take some bigger steps down.
Oh shoot. Okay, 425.
Even less.
Okay, this is not. Wow. Okay. 4?
No. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, please.
$343,000 is the average home price in the United States. What do you think you have to earn to comfortably buy that house?
My jaw is on the floor at how deeply inside like the Treasure Valley home price bubble I am, because that is crazy to me.
Oh yeah, this will be taking a hard left turn in a moment.
Great. Well, I guess, I don't know, if you had to pay $59,000 to afford something like that, I'll just say 60,000.
Zillow is saying to afford that $340,000 home comfortably, you need to be making $106,000.
Okay.
And that is 80% more income than you needed to comfortably buy a home in 2020. So now
80%, folks. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And unless you got some like really significant raises,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's happening for people. Okay, Blake, let's take this to Idaho. Let's get real Idaho centric. So just for Idaho, this is Zillow's median home price in Idaho in February of 2024.
Okay. That I am going to say, just taking the hint off of I should just go down from the USA, what I just did there. I'm going to say 475.
Oh, very close. Go down, but not a ton.
Okay. 472.
Oh, okay. More than that.
Okay. 465. I don't know. Somewhere in there.
443. So 443,000 is the average median home price in Idaho in February 2024. So how much do you think Zillow recommends that your income should be to comfortably afford that house?
That maybe 120, 130,000.
$132,000.
Yeah, dang.
So for everyone who says that Idaho's cheaper, actually no, or we're about $100,000 more on average for the median home price. So homes are not cheaper here than the average for the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get real Boise specific. So according to Zillow, Blake, what is the average home value in Boise in February of 2024?
Okay. I'm going to go, I mean, I remember when it peaked above $500,000. So I'm going to say 450.
473.
Okay.
So $473,000.
That
So
makes
about
sense. Okay.
$30,000 more than the rest of the state. All right. And what is, according to the Zillow calculator, the recommended annual income for a home price?
I guess that would be 140, 150.
Yeah, you nailed it. $140,000.
The last one I finally got correct.
You got it. You got it.
That was grueling. I'm just now realizing, I have not been tuned into this as much. I think partially just because I'm like, there's a brief period after college where I was like, okay, long-term planning, let's go. How can I afford a house? And then I was like, oh, we can't do that. So I think that I've just kind of stuck my head in the sand for like a year and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, didn't realize. Yeah, no. Well, and I think we saw those like the highest numbers.
Yeah. And that's what my head is still stuck in that, I think.
Yes. But but still like having to make $140,000 to afford the median home. That's not even like fancy. That's not a fancy house. That is like maybe just a step above a starter home.
Yeah.
You want a home with an office.
Yeah, literally.
Okay, this was one of my favorite parts of the article was that it was really cute, you guys. Zillow said, as a result, hopefully home buyers are more often partnering with friends and family or house hacking their way into home ownership.
Great.
So if you have a rich dad or an inheritance, and I really loved how they called it a hack. Like some influencer is going to be like, hey, DIY girlies, here's how to get rid of the wrinkles in your shirt. And then we're going to show you our quick, easy hacks to home ownership.
Yeah, literally, which is to have, to just have a bunch of money from your parents. Always.
Exactly.
That's always the rule. Yeah.
That's the answer. Well, so I just hope people can maybe, since we're calling it home hacking now and you need to rely on friends and family, maybe we should all try like Ocean's 11ing our way into a home with our closest friends.
Yeah. Yeah. And that way, maybe we can start buying more houses than developers are buying.
Yeah. I think this is the strategy we're going to go with. And it definitely like thoughts and prayers vibes from Zillow.
For sure. Yeah. Thoughts and prayers vibes from and for all of us at this point, to be honest. For this dystopian episode that we just had.
Our dystopian game.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, thank you so much, Blake. I hope you have a great weekend and good luck on maybe future house hacking.
Yeah. I'm for sure going to be on Zillow for like the rest of the day, actually. So thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. The show is produced by Evelyn Avitia, Frankie Barnhill, and Lizzie Goldsmith. Blake Hunter writes our Hey Boise newsletter, and our music is by Up Is the Down Is the. If you enjoyed our show today, leave us a review. It helps other people find us. We'll be back on Monday with more stories from around the city. See you then.